before I start giving my overall thoughts on this movie, first, I gotta give a shout out to two people in the theater that I encountered who I highly doubt are even watching this video, but still want to point out. First guy, well, first three people I should mention is good parenting, bro, when you brought in your 4-year-old daughter to go see a PG 13 Transformers movie on the IMAX screen. I bet she really did love that, especially when she was chattering throughout most of the movie and even got upset during the movie. But maybe I'm reading too much into it, but still, I just find that odd. Don't let that be a lesson. Don't, if you're gonna have a date night and you can't find a babysitter, just postpone it or just do something else. Like, you don't have to bring your kid to the movie you're gonna go see. It's not a good idea. Next person I want to mention is, it's not really anything negative, of course, but, kid right next to me who was going absolutely buck wild throughout this entire movie. Just a lot of exciting moments for him, which I get it, man. I was there, but I kept it in, and I just let my goosebumps speak for me. But that's fine. You're a high schooler. You're excited. I was excited, just more internally, but that's fine. No judgment, but just like to point that out. Anyway, what am I? The title's no lie. This is one of the most badass Transformers movies I've seen. I almost said scenes. There are quite a few badass scenes, but the movie in particular is pretty badass. Now, I'm not going to praise the ever-loving crap out of this movie because I do have issues. I'm just going to hop right into them because I want to make this video somewhat short, so I'm not keeping you here for 15 minutes while I go on a rant. But the characters at first, the first, I'd say 20 minutes before you actually get introduced to the Autobots and everyone, they're fine. At least they made them so you can root for them at least. At least they, gave you stakes to the characters. But, again, that's not what a whole lot of people want out of a Transformers movie. When we watch a Transformers film, we want to see robots going at it. And we do get that, but again, I'm just sick of seeing humans. But granted, I'm glad that they actually did give a decent human connection to this. It actually had a human touch to this, which I did really enjoy. Also, the ending I felt was also a bit abrupt, and also just, it teased a sequel, and spoiler alert, it also teased G.I. Joe. Yeah, sure, whatever. But I would, I don't know what I would want. I don't want anything out of it, because I'm literally just a 20-year-old boy who still lives at home working on his nursing stuff while he goes through life, just giving his thoughts on a movie that he relatively enjoyed. So there's that. The Maximals, unfortunately, don't get a whole lot of screen time, but that's fine. That's mainly just a nitpick. Near the final battle, I know a lot of people talked about it, but I didn't think it was true. I didn't really believe a whole lot of people, but yes, if you watch a lot of internet videos or read a lot of articles, people are talking about the main character wearing a Transformer suit. That does happen in the movie, and that was straight out of, he looked like a literal flying Iron Man. Even a Power Ranger at one point, which I didn't really like. That's really all about the nitpicks I have, because this movie is really entertaining. The action was badass. It was awesome just to witness on the big screen. And again, I watched this on the IMAX screen, so it was really cool to witness. And also, props to the sound designers as well. Transformer movies always have great sound design, but it really worked here. I like how the Transformers also had genuine human emotions. That's partly why I also liked the Bumblebee prequel, which this movie is a sequel to that reboot. So there is a line that Optimus says, basically telling Bumblebee, I know you had a good experience with a human. Basically, confirming our beliefs that this is, 5 years after the fact of the Bumblebee prequel. So that was pretty cool. There are a couple of noticeable like plot holes, but I'm not going to go too deep into them, especially since I just got out of the theater and I went home and just to record this video, which I am recording in my sister's room. So if my sister happens to watch this, my bad. I just don't want to cause a ruckus for my mom who's having a meeting. So I went in my sister's room. I also wanted to mention this, but the effects in this movie, I mean, I should have mentioned this in my Bumblebee video, but the effects in Bumblebee were really outstanding to the point where, I couldn't tell what was CGI. There was probably one moment where in Bumblebee where it looked like CGI. But in this movie, I mean, the CGI was practically flawless. It was just pristine. It was cleaned up nicely. They really did improve on the CGI in this movie, and that's no joke. I mean, it is just spectacular CGI. There are probably like a couple of shots in this movie that are obviously CGI and it doesn't look real, but it happens so fast that you don't even think about it. I mean, obviously, if you go into a Transformers movie, you're expecting CGI to some capacity, so I always let that go. And of course, I'm thinking these are really cool effects. What else do I have to say? Mirage was also pretty funny in this movie. Pete Davidson, he's a funny guy. I know a lot of people hate him. I don't mind him. He wasn't annoying in this movie. He was occasionally annoying, but he was fine in this movie as well. Scourge, as well, really cool villain. I like how his helmet actually has like I forgot what it's called. Oh my gosh, I'm a Transformers fan and I don't even know the name of it. But basically the Decepticon logo as like a face shield, which is really cool. The fact that they utilized a logo and used it on a character, which is really cool in my opinion, which I know they were going to do for Revenge of the Fallen for the Fallen, since in that movie he was the original Transformer, but in Transformers 2 he looks like he's about ready to bomb Honolulu or whatever. Bumblebee especially, badass as always, but he's barely in this movie. Also, spoiler alert, actually, I'm not even going to spoil this a whole lot. I'm just going to give a slight, hint on what happens. But this movie does to Bumblebee what Transformers 5 didn't have the balls to do. And if you know exactly what I'm talking about, you know where this movie heads. And unfortunately, he's not in the movie for a whole lot. They kind of do a bait and switch with, not really a bait and switch. They kind of do like a switcheroo with this, in the second Michael Bay Transformers, Optimus dies, and then in this movie, yeah, I basically just told you what happened, and I just don't want to say it out loud, because if by some divine miracle not a whole lot of people know what I'm talking about, which I don't know how that's possible, but somehow you'd have to be pretty brainless to not see where I'm going with this, but yeah. Essentially, that's what happens to him, and he comes back near the final battle, which is cool. The final battle, especially, that's where the badass stuff kicks in. Optimus Prime has badass. I'm just going to say badass throughout this entire review, I don't care. But Optimus Prime has like some of the coolest line deliveries in this movie. And I like how he's not the optimistic Autobot that we know him. He's still, well, he's not still. He's still like, why do I keep saying still? I don't know how to word this. He's angry, well, not angry. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to speak clearly. He just doesn't like the humans, long story short. He doesn't trust them, which I do like. He has to learn to trust them along the way, which I enjoy. I like before he turns into the optimistic human leader that we know him as, in this movie, he doesn't like humans as much. In fact, he even tells Noah a couple of times, like, no, go home, dude. This isn't your fight. Again, the human characters, Noah specifically, he does have some, drama related to his brother, which is handled nicely, but, it's not gonna really it's not, it's not, dwelled on for a whole lot of the screen time. When you're watching a Transformers movie, you want Transformers. And in this movie, you do get Transformers. I already talked about this long enough, but basically, this movie was really good. I don't know why critics hate it. Obviously, I'm not listening to the critics a whole lot, but I don't know. Like, sometimes, I mean, this is the definition of a turn off your brain and watch the movie. I mean, it's a definition of a popcorn movie. It's so much fun. It's a fun movie to watch. And yeah, again, I'll talk about my thoughts on the other Transformers movies when I eventually get to them, but yeah, in this movie in particular, this was up there. This was a really good Transformers movie. I'm not going to call it the best or anything. I know a lot of people are saying it's the best. Another issue with Rotten Tomatoes is that it seems like they're contradicting each other. They could just be pulling reviews, like the best reviews, and putting them into the advertisements, and yet Rotten Tomatoes is contradicting those statements. But, I'm in that, group where this movie was pretty good. They say it's better than the first movie. That's a bold claim, especially with, I have a soft spot for the first movie, but it is up there. It is a really good movie. Obviously, Bumblebee, for me, if you're going to make a Transformers movie, these are the two ways you should do it. The first way, obviously, the Bumblebee way, where you just make it simple, fun, and you don't do a whole lot with it. You don't make it overcomplicated. Or you do it like this movie. You make it fun, you make it action-packed, you add mythology, but it's not too long. And this movie flies by, and it's 2 hours long. And I've watched 2-hour movies that feel like they're like a Zack Snyder Justice League length. And yet this movie flies by like it's nothing. This is another one of those movies that after watching it, I wanted to watch it again. This is a really entertaining movie. I don't want to say it's a masterpiece. There are issues with it that I'm sure I'll pick up when I inevitably watch it again, but from what I've seen, this is a really, really well done movie. So bravo to the Transformers. And it's clear that the director really loves the Transformers. Like, he loves the characters, and I'm sure he grew up with the Michael Bay ones. But this felt like, it was like watching him play with the Transformers action figures while watching this movie, which is really cool. Especially since I've grown up to love Transformer toys and movies, obviously, so I have a soft spot for this franchise. But it's a really great movie. It just sucks because I looked at the early box office projections for this film, and it's not going to make a whole lot of money, which sucks. I hope it does. I recommend people go see it, but of course, 5 people watch my videos in general, but by some divine miracle of God, a whole lot of people watch my video. I recommend they go see it. This is a really fun movie to go see. So yeah, and I'll give my thoughts on the other ones eventually, but that's about it.